you could get a shadow that worked, that'd be great.
Just put in the guy from Office Space.
And we're back. Apologies for staying silent for so long. We've had our hands full with various game applications, working alongside other developers on contract work, and trying to get Par for the Dungeon up to our art standards so that we can begin pitching this game to publishers. Also, we've been moving a bit slower up here in Canada as we start to bundle up for the winter. The past 4 weeks have been all hands on deck, polishing up the entirety of the first world, which entails 27 total holes. We've also built the technical tools necessary for our World 2 mechanics, grayboxed all of our World 2 levels, and ironed out our UI direction. While we won't be able to capture all of those elements in this video, we are hoping to highlight all of that work over the next couple of videos. So let's dive in and take a look at all of the art and polish passes required to bring our first world up to that standard.
When I start on a new level that's gone through playtesting and is ready for an art pass, I begin by replacing all of the ground tiles first. Helps me get a sense visually of how much space I have to work with when placing the art assets. And after placing all the floor tiles, I start replacing the walls. The level design team has placed everything like really precisely, so it's super important that I match them and keep playtesting while I'm doing the art to make sure everything lines up with the colliders and none of my art is obscuring any important gameplay elements and things like buttons. Once the floors and the walls are done, I start doing the other decorations like the trees and anything else that's in the level. I start to feel out like a composition. I don't know what I'm gonna make until I start making it and just see what looks nice. So in this level, we've transitioned from village to forest, and I wanted the level to reflect that. So I placed the trees and rocks and grass and stuff around organically. And I do the grass and leaf cards last as just like final touches to try and help unify everything together and make it look more natural.
Here I am working on one of the levels in Course 1. When I'm doing an art pass in a level, I usually start by breaking up the playfield and placing cards of dirt patches and grass stuffs, then moving on to the outside of the field where all the fun happens. I like that our level designers aren't too strict in terms of decoration placement, and you can really get creative while making those little compositions. For the amount of levels that we have, the art kits are pretty limited, but we managed to create very interesting and diverse scenes within those limitations. After all, it's the visuals that bring out the story in our game. You start out in a village surrounded by little huts and farms, then moving through the forest towards the rock caves, all done with just a few variations of rocks and trees that we modeled beforehand. The level art gets fun and easy when planned ahead. With the art pass complete, the level will get handed back over to the design team to finish adding in the little mechanical interactions in VFX.
So once Kamilla and Jess have wrapped up their art passes, there's always a little more level design work and cleanup elements to double back on. The artists do almost all the heavy lifting for us by replacing all of those gray box elements, but certain gameplay systems are not simple replacements and often require the setup and implementation of custom tools that were made by our tech teams. Since Zach and I are the level designers on Par for the Dungeon, it just makes the most sense for us to complete this work. So here you can see me laying out the spline tool that makes up our little wires there that the tech team put together for us. And this is just connecting the various game objects so that we create this color changing functionality of the wires. The wires here are purely to help assist players' decision making and clearly delineate what impacts each button or interaction will have if triggered. So while they don't technically trigger the moving walls or squish pads, they are an important element to implement so that way players don't feel tricked by the game in a case where an interaction acts differently than they maybe originally anticipated.
Coming in at the end of this process, it was my job to bring in some more ambient VFX to the scenes. This is kind of a weird one in the sense that they shouldn't really be super noticeable, but they should also overall add to the vibe of each of the levels. A lot of fallen leaves in the ground, aesthetic for this first world here. So to further help boost that, hopefully not in too noticeable way, I started placing some light shafts coming through the trees as well as some falling leaves from the trees themselves. Pretty quickly though, I found the process of placing individual light shafts one by one underneath the trees and falling leaves underneath the trees would be pretty time consuming, and just in my head doing the quick mental math, extrapolating that across 9 courses and like 27 holes, it would take way too long for what would hopefully be a very subtle effect. So I went in a completely different direction pretty quickly. You'll see in the time lapse in the video here, I scale up all of the leaves and kind of just put them in the sky somewhat. So you get the idea of being surrounded by falling leaves and having those light shafts around you without me having to go in and individually place leaves that you and the player would probably never see.
I was working on a shadow tool here, and so this is something that we've been wanting for a while. Shae's been asking for just a way to add just little like blob shadows underneath characters like the player and the enemies, just to help them separate them from the environment. And this comes with its own complications, because certain things, like if I just put an image on the ground, then it wouldn't adjust based on what's under it. If it was just a flat mesh, it wouldn't kind of conform to the environment underneath. And then other techniques that I was trying out would make it so that shadows would kind of multiply on top of each other. So if you had 2 shadows combining, then you would have it be darker where those 2 shadows are meeting, which isn't how shadows work. If shadows intersect with each other, they should all kind of stay the same darkness. So it took me a while to figure out a nice technical solution to have it so that, shadows could be overlapped with each other and still work nicely and play well with all the other tech and rendering that we have in the game, and still come out looking crisp and clean and easy for artists to work with.
So yeah, I made the blob shadow. I found out that Unity does have like a decal system in our version of URP. So the thing is I tried to get, they have like a decal shader. I tried to modify it to make it multiply, and it kind of kept messing up.
Okay.
So it's not multiply.
Is it just like low opacity color?
Yeah. But what I was able to do was make a version of it, because it didn't support like different colors and stuff at first. Mm-hmm. So we could set like a blob shadow color per level.
Can you go over top of the, or like position the ball so it's like half on the dirt, half on the grass?
Yeah, I think it doesn't work on transparent objects.
Transparent objects.
Yeah, that's our issue. Because we'll have a lot of transparent objects on the ground. Yeah, we can do a solution that works on the transparent objects, but isn't like a decal, so it wouldn't form to the ground like as accurately, which might end up being better.
Our ground's never very difficult. We have some downhills, that's it though. Otherwise it's totally flat. If you can get a multiply, that'd be ideal.
Because then I could probably do a multiply.
Because I'd be worried, color. I mean, if you want to be like super clear, it can see a really dark color, but if you want to get some more like subtle coloring on the shadow, and it's not multiply, it's gonna look weird on the dirt or grass that are only like tune it to. Like if it's an orange on the grass, it'll just be like an orange on the dirt, almost like a shadow at that point.
Yeah.
There's a bit of feedback from the front when the ball guy is facing the camera. It looks good, but when on his back, his backpack basically covers up the entirety of the shadow. It's an unrealistic shadow basically. It's going to match it perfectly. You can kind of see on that bottom area there, like it's a square.
Oh, it's just squares.
But like it's just bigger than they are. Helps them pop out more.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that was the plan from the get-go. So if the ball guy does it, it's not going to look weird. You get a multiply, that would be awesome.
Yeah. And I'll see if I can get some kind of solution that works on transparent objects.
You could get a shadow that worked. That'd be great.
Just put in the guy from Office Space. All right. I'll see what I can do.
This is the shoot and reset for the burn arrow. We had to wait until the actual art and stuff was in the game so we could see what was good to go, like with the ball guy and the burn arrow. And once that was done, we can then see the proportions, and then I can animate using those proportions with the different items like the bow and arrow, the bomb, etc. So yeah, this is just me doing a time lapse of the reset animation for the bow and arrow. The challenge with this was trying to make it look appealing and see it from the gameplay view. So that was the hard part, but it was also the fun part, getting it to work with the size of the ball guy and the size of the bow and arrow. Trying to get it look nice was, yeah, it was hard, but it was fun.
So this time for UI, normally I'm one of the people going in and doing that initial pass in the game. This time, because it was being built out from Game Jam game that Josh had originally created, it was a little bit of a different process. We still have the same thing that you had seen in the previous video where Shae kind of concepts out how he wants all the UI to look, even some of how it would behave, and animate and kind of react to a user's cursor or them themselves, like touching the screen. I first take the concept that Shae provides, put it into the scene, make it somewhat transparent, and begin making adjustments. Anything that's in the existing layout that is close to what I need or functionally correct, I will resize to match what is in the concept. And anything that isn't, I will remove and begin adding new things. After that's done, and I have the layout all set up, I'll begin working on the code. This one, again, there's a lot of pre-existing stuff, so it was first looking at the code that was there and figuring out what was still referenced in Unity, because like I said earlier, I deleted stuff, and making changes as needed. As you see here, I spend a fair bit of time playing, getting a little better at the game, just trying to get all the stars, kind of go one by one, get crowns, and make sure it's all functioning and doing what it should do according to the concept. After all this, it'll end up in a pull request, and then I'll get a review by Josh and Shae, and they will find little details, things that get missed kind of always in that first pass and first go through, and maybe even any bugs that were missed.
After completing each of these important art and design passes, on all 27 levels, we have officially brought World 1 up to our art standard and are close to finalizing our UI menus to match. These art and design passes are an exciting time for the team as we finally get to see all the hard work over the past few months combined together and get a much clearer sense of the game's final quality. There's still additional work to be completed before we can call World 1 done. But with each of those remaining elements like sound effects, music, and UI, they'll all continue being developed while the team transitions over to World 2. Over the past few videos, we've asked for input or idea suggestions. Now, there were a lot of great suggestions, and certain ideas actually have been implemented. So as always, we welcome feedback and really like hearing from everyone. Lastly, thank you so much for your patience as we haven't been able to post a video in the past few weeks. It is exciting to post these updates with everyone, so thanks as always for watching. Catch you in the next one.